as we look and stare into the abyss. You never know what's staring back at you. It's coming.
All these voices.
They're mine, he said. They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead.
Hershey.
Did you say Hershey?
That's what it sounded like.
Good, so you know who I am. Because then you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? Are you watching us right now? You want me to burn your house down? She said I won't let you.
Out here, there's been a legend that there's just a heat. This is supposed to be one of the lowest points in Virginia, if not the lowest. And I've been out here several other times investigating, and I've been chased out of here.
So I want you and I command you now. You have no dominion or authority over this house anymore. I command you to return to the pits of hell that you belong to.
And see, you can't attach to me. You can't attach to anybody here anymore. I do not give you permission. In Jesus' name, you are not allowed to attach or harm anybody in this house or on this team. So if that pisses you off, and you want to take a shot, take it right now.
January 2023 initial interview. Tucker, James, myself, obviously. Ruby.
Ruby the dog. So basically what we're going to do is just have you guys kind of tell your story of what's going on. Just kind of try not to leave anything out, or as much detail, no matter how crazy it sounds or how inconsequential you think it doesn't matter. Just stuff that's out of the ordinary, stuff that you mentioned, the different phenomena you've seen, heard, all that kind of stuff. So, and then we'll ask you some questions once you're done based on
Yeah,
what
because
you said.
definitely we've seen it all, heard it all. You're not going to say anything that's not going to, you know what I'm saying, sound out of, no. I've been doing it for a long, long time, and yeah, definitely Will James too. And
I will say one thing about the shadows. And I was watching one of your videos today, and I've told you this before, that I only catch them out of the corner of my eye, and when I look, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that all the time.
that's normal.
That's
Yeah.
that's a daily occurrence.
Yeah, that's not abnormal at all.
Yeah.
So, my mom bought this house when my parents divorced. I was probably in 5th grade. I'll be 38 in 2 months. And this has always been like the center of our family. My mother remarried after I graduated high school, and my brother did. And she lives in Middletown with her husband, and I basically take care of the house. My mother's in early stages of Alzheimer's, and I've been redoing the house for her because I want her to see that house has been cared for before her mind goes to where she doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done a lot of home improvements, and since before I even met her father, and she's 9, I've always felt like there was something in here. Like, there used to be a recliner sitting about where you are, and a TV was on a stand, and I was sitting there one day, and I could hear the closet opening in the bedroom behind this wall. I could hear stuff walking up and down the hallway, and then this TV pushed, and I could hear it like the plastic creaking.
Mm-hmm.
I've always kind of felt like there was something in our bedroom. There's been times where I could be in there middle of the night and I can see something dark, like almost like a cloud or something moving on the ceiling. My brother, when we were in school, he stayed in that bedroom, and he said he always felt like he heard the door jiggling and someone trying to mess with the handle. My daughter's been in that room. She's given me the same explanation. There's always been something here, but it never bothered me, so I didn't, it was just like, whatever, it's here. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm not going to bother it. Well,
Until last week.
Mom.
well, no. When you were 7, she started acting totally out of character to the point where she wouldn't even talk. She would get angry, and she's always been a happy kid. She told me, I noticed that she started cutting up clothes and hiding them in her room, and I'm like, what in the world's going on here? And she told me that there was a man, and she could hear the man whispering in her ear, telling her to hurt herself, to go get a knife in the kitchen, hurt herself, to cut herself. She would have vivid dreams where you said that you saw tables set up in this part of the house.
Like, it'd be in the kitchen or, like, the living room, one or the other.
So they diagnosed her with severe depression, anxiety, off the charts for ADHD. She's on like 4 medications now for all of that. She says she doesn't hear the voices anymore, but she's even seen things sometimes. She can't make out a face, but she can see that it's a person. And then earlier this week, I was in the kitchen, leaning up against the counter, facing the microwave, and I felt like somebody was messing with my hair. I had it pulled up, and I was like, Tony and Kinley are playing a trick on me. So I turned around, and there's no one there. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just losing my mind. Well, then I see this shadow on the cabinet to the left of me that looks like a long, skinny arm. And I was like, okay, that's got to be Kinley. Turned around, nobody's there. So I'm like, what in the hell? Then the cabinet in front of me opened a little bit and then shut. And I was like, what the? So I just kind of was like shocked. And then it happened again within like maybe 45 seconds, and it was more opened this time, and it closed. So I backed up and I went down the hall, and I came about him. She was asleep in her room. He was in the bedroom, and I told him what happened, and he's like, you're playing a trick on me. I was like, no, I'm fucking not. I'm not playing a joke with you. And he's like, there's no way. And then he comes out, and the freaking kitchen cabinet's wide open. And he's like, you did that on purpose. I said, I swear on my daughter's life, I did not do that. And then all this stuff just keeps happening and happening.
And then the very next day, not to interrupt you, but the very next day, I walked outside. When I walked back in, that very cabinet opened and shut. Didn't it?
Yeah.
You were here with me.
It
I thought it was
slammed
her,
shut.
and she had just walked out of the bathroom.
Yeah, it was loud. I heard it. It slammed.
Yeah.
So the experience you had and then the cabinet you had, both the same door?
Yes.
Same cabinet door? Okay. Remember, we're going to check that cabinet door before we leave, make sure it's not loose or wobbly in any way. Okay, so the stuff that was going on with the doors and feeling like your hair was pulled and seeing stuff out of the corner of your eye, has that been since the renovation started, that that's begun?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and before that it was just the one time with her?
Yeah, it was like maybe, well,
You mean with her?
oh, with her.
there's-
He's had stuff happening since he moved in with me, which was like maybe a month after we met, because he had his surgery, and I said, stay here and I'll take care of you, and it's just, he's been here since.
One night, somebody came up and pushed me like that right there on my hip in the bed.
Not to
And
interrupt you,
there's
Tony,
nobody there.
but it still happens in my bedroom. Like, the door handle will jiggle. Sometimes I feel like my closet's opening and shutting.
She's always complained about the closet. Whatever room she's in, she's scared of the closet. She's
Because
always
it's
wanted me to shut the door.
I'm the same way.
But it's always because I
I'm the same
hear.
way.
Like, I was in my old bedroom one time, which was the bedroom I'm in now, and I heard the closet open a little bit and like shut. I didn't tell you about this yet. I was gonna tell you tonight. I didn't know they were coming though. It opened and shut. Like, that's what I heard. and I go check it out, and it's like open a little bit, but it's been shut all evening. No one went in there at all.
And you haven't heard any voices since back when you were
No,
7?
But in the bedroom, Tony turned off all the lights, and like I could see stuff. Like we were sitting on the bed, I could see something like right in front of me. I couldn't even explain it. Like it had a face, but I couldn't explain it. Like it.
Maybe like a shadow.
Yeah.
Did it look like a person? Like a person's
No.
shadow?
It didn't look like a person.
Was it the same kind of shape as a person?
Yeah, kinda.
Any features like hats or anything like that that it would have on it?
All I know, it had an eye, 2 eyes, and a mouth, and that was it. And like, it was all black, and just the eyes and the mouth were white. That's all I could see. It's like right in front of me. I told you about it.
I've never seen any features or anything.
So when she went to a psychiatrist,
She got put in a mental facility for 5 days.
okay, was there ever a diagnosis or a suspicion of schizophrenia or anything like that?
Nothing.
Because that would be the first thing that they would look at if you're hearing voices. So if they didn't diagnose her that way, then they probably don't think that she had schizophrenia. Okay, so as far as you go, when they were already here in the house when you moved in?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then go ahead and tell me about your experiences.
Well, I've had, like I said, laying in bed and have felt like somebody pushed my head, somebody grabbed my ankle.
Oh yeah. I was gonna tell you that.
Most of the time when I see them, they're looking around the corner at me, like at the door, the edge of the door or whatever. It's like 2 feet down from the top, from the ceiling, is where I'll see it. I don't usually see the whole body. I usually just like this part.
And it's kind of like a human-like shape,
Yeah,
but it's a shadow.
yeah. Now, I have seen it in the closet back there.
You were brushing your teeth that one day.
I usually leave the door open, and when I brush my teeth, when I turn back around, the door was shut. So,
I remember in my old bedroom, like we just
Just little
changed the
things
light
like
bulb. The lights were like flickering by one, and then
That could be anything.
So you said your parents divorced? Is that what you said, or
Yeah, my parents.
how
divorced. How was that?
how nasty was that? I mean, we're gonna ask some questions.
it
If
was-
it makes you uncomfortable, let me
No,
know.
you're
But
fine. It was pretty rough, and my parents did nothing but argue my whole life. I mean, when I was probably before kindergarten age, I have a vivid, like I can still remember everything about, like a photographic memory almost. I remember my brother and I were taking a nap, and I heard them yelling, and I woke up, and I was holding my brother's hand, and my brother's a year.
and that
a
was
half.
here.
No, this
okay.
was in Hedgesville when we lived there. But I walked in on my dad choking my mom, and my dad swears that if I hadn't have said, "Daddy, what are you doing?" he would have killed my mother.
Right.
My mom got into drugs. She disappeared for a year, and my dad took care of us. I have 2 brothers. They have different fathers. My younger brother and I have the same dad, but we all have the same mother, and I don't have a relationship with them. They don't speak to me. I haven't spoken to my father in probably 2 years. The last time I did see him was my grandmother's funeral, which was my mom's mother.
Right.
Passed away November of 21. So pretty much my entire family has done nothing but attack me over the last couple of years, and my health has declined.
You don't think none of them are into any kind of black arts or
Ouija boards,
witchcraft
seances,
or anything like that you know of?
I don't know, but my younger brother doesn't believe in God, and we were brought up Christian, and he just doesn't believe. And
But as far as you know, there's no like messing
Not
with
that I
Ouija
know
boards
of.
or
Practicing
Wicca
any kind
or
of-
anything like that.
no.
Is there any history of, you said that there's like domestic violence and drug use. Is there any history of sexual assault in the family, either to you or to anybody else?
Not that I know of, but I know that my grandmother accused my father of molesting me when I was maybe like 3 or 4. I don't think anything ever happened, but I don't know.
Has any of them, your mother, your father, anybody around the family like that ever talked about hearing voices before or Like when your father was choking your mother, did he ever explain why he was choking your mother? Was he in control of himself? Did something tell him to do it?
No, they constantly argued. I know my mom and my dad did nothing but cheat on each other my whole childhood.
No, I'm good.
So it was not an easy childhood, and
I know your
I had to
family
grow
was
up a
never
lot
had been.
sooner than I
So I
wanted
know
to,
most
and
of
I
your
think that
family.
it's just kind of
Nobody's
changed
ever
me
went
as
through
a
anything,
person.
have they? Hearing voices or anything
But
like that? Do you
my
know?
father, he's remarried. His wife does
Trying
not
to
like
find
me at
out,
all.
make sure it's not something that
Refuses to speak to me. If
that
they want to see her, they go through my ex-husband. My ex-husband and I had a really rough relationship.
just been seeing a lot of
Um,
generational stuff lately. Where things
There were several times I had to lock myself and
Yeah.
her in
Yeah.
the nursery when we lived in Stephen City.
Mom,
It was really bad.
I don't know the backstory of it. You know the whole thing. Remember on the baby monitor when I was like having a full-on conversation?
Oh yeah, when we lived in Stephen City, I actually had some guy that was like local to Winchester that said he did paranormal stuff. He came in and like looked through the house because from the time she was a baby,
Oh God.
she would sit in her nursery and I could hear her having full-blown conversations with something like 3 o'clock in the morning.
And this took place in Stephen City.
Mm-hmm.
So there's history before this house
Yeah.
of paranormal activity happening with your family, with
Yeah.
you and your daughter.
Mm-hmm. I've always wondered if I'm sensitive because I can dream about something and it feels so incredibly real, and it almost always happens.
Is there a feeling that what you experienced in Stephen City and what you are experiencing here is the same thing? Does it feel like it's the same, or does it feel like a completely different? So like you know how with people, if you talk to somebody and then you talk to somebody else, you can tell that's two different people. You know what I mean?
It feels different.
Feels different?
It feels more intense, and I can say that when I've seen like the shadow thing on the ceiling and stuff like that, I have felt like the weight in the room change. Like
Just
it feels heavy. I remember distinctly having a dream before I even met him, and I was in this house, but I dreamt that I was over near like the White House factory down here. There's like a little shack off in the woods right before you get to the Red Cross building.
Exactly where you're at.
And I dreamt that I was walking to that building for some reason, just to like look around in there. And the closer I got to the building, the heavier and the heavier and the heavier I felt. Like it got to the point where I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I woke up like breathing heavy. Like, did that really happen? Like, there's so many times I wake up and I have dreams and I think, did that really happen? Was that real? Or I have to convince myself that it was a dream. It's just so weird.
So whenever you guys are seeing something or experiencing something, is there ever, like, you know that smell right before it storms or right after it storms, that lightning kind of smell? Have you ever smelt that, or do you ever,
Ozone.
yeah, like that ozone smell, or do you ever feel like the hair on the back of your neck stand up and feel tingly?
I do get that sometimes, and I will say, it's really strange. I thought maybe it was a migraine because I've been getting more and more
Like
migraines
pressure in
lately.
your eyes and the back?
He had to take me to the emergency room because I was having severe dizzy spells. Just last week?
This week.
It was this week. And the dizziness is still there. Like it'll get to the point where if I get up or go do something, like the room will start spinning and I have to stop. And that's new. I can't explain that.
Well, a lot of times that's caused by something, not to get too sciencey, but something called ELF-EMF. It's ELF EMF. It's extremely low frequency electromagnetic fields. It's something that spirits and stuff, they, like in your brain, you have your neurons and your synapses firing, there's electricity in your brain. When you die, that energy is still around. A lot of people think that's what makes up spirits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have spirits that are present, you'll have EMF that's present, just like you have off your TV and phones and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ELF-EMF is extremely low frequency, right? That's what a lot of people say that spirits emit. That gives you that ozone smell and that tingly feeling in the back of your neck. It can make you dizzy, give you headaches, give you like pressure up here in this area to where you just don't feel right. You feel kind of woozy and kind of off. You know what I mean?
Over the last 2 years, like, you can see the darkness around my eyes. I've never had that, but now it's like it never goes away.
Have they been doing any fiber optic work around here, or any kind of electric work?
Last year.
Last year.
They ran fiber through the neighborhood.
Yeah, because EMF, like he was saying, EMF can definitely give you hallucinations, headaches. I mean, a ton of different things.
Yeah.
I did a case one time where the woman was seeing her dead ex-husband coming down the steps every night. And go over and sit in the chair that she was sitting in, and EMF was so high that no wonder. Find out the electrical box was right on the on the outside of the house, right behind where she was sitting at. Moved the chair, and she never had it again.
And I never had migraines until we moved into this house. It started when I was in high school.
You mentioned you guys were doing renovations. Have you been doing anything with the electrical work in the house, or have you done anything that has exposed electrical wiring or anything like that?
Yes.
We put a building in the backyard and ran some wires and
Put
stuff.
some breakers in. I put new ceiling fans up, fixtures, put a range hood, stuff like that.
So just basically stuff hooking up to the electric wiring, but you haven't like rewired the house or torn any wiring out or
I
anything?
did the building, but
Yeah, okay.
yeah, not that.
Glad you did that. Electrical, I'm no good at. That's why I was telling you that day when we were doing the hot water heater.
Mine is all theory, not practice with electricity. You know, I don't muck with electricity much because, but I know it. I know I'm book smart on that, right? But I've never done it like electric work because
Yeah.
I've literally turned my fingernails black and shot myself across the room a couple of times messing with electrical work. So I don't mess with it if I don't have to.
I don't blame
I got
you.
hit with T77 one time, and my supervisor said, "Oh, I turned that breaker off. You're good." All right. And I started messing with it, and I got a hold of the ground wire to bend it to make a hook. And right there, I touched the ground wire and blew a hole out of the top of my finger.
Yeah, I learned to always check the breaker myself because my brother was putting in one of them big Whirlpool hot tub dealies in his house, and it hooks up to a 220 line. And I asked him, I said, "Did you turn the breaker off?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem." And I said, "Well, I'm gonna go check the breaker just to make sure." And so he just commences the cutting anyway, because he's cutting the line to put it in, and he didn't turn it off, and it shot he had a pair of bolt cutters, and it shot them damn things up in the air out of his
But it
hand.
did.
It sounded like lightning hitting the house. I was like, "I told you,
Like
you gotta
glue
check."
on the inside when you go to cut.
Yeah, you always gotta check.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah. You mind if I just walk around the house?
Go for it.
So these are EMF detectors that picks up and measures in what they call pracousts. It's going to show us that there's high EMF readings that is constant. We also use them when we're trying to communicate. A lot of times you'll be somewhere that there's no electric, and it makes no sense that that's going off or anything like that. But yeah, he's gonna walk around and just double check and see. Now, do you guys buy anything like from Goodwill or any places like
I
that?
work at a thrift store.
Yeah.
I'm a donation supervisor, so I process everything that gets donated, and I love old vintage.
And you go
stuff.
to Goodwill like how many times a month?
Hey,
I
I
like
do too.
thrifting.
There's nothing wrong with that. You have to sometimes.
Yeah. And I will say, since my grandmother passed, I have gotten a lot of like my grandmother and my grandfather's things because I'm the one settling the estate. Like that cabinet is my father's mother's. That's my grandfather's flag up there. I mean, that's my dad's chest of drawers.
So you know that feeling that the grandparents used to get when we
Yeah.
were with them? Do you get that when some of these shadows are around?
Only when I dream. I mean, my dreams can be. I was very close with my dad's mother. She's like my twin. And she passed when she was 69 years old. That was in 2009. And my mom's stepfather, I call him my grandfather, he passed in 2009 as well. They both back to back. It was pretty rough. But I will have dreams about her and my other grandmother, and I can smell them, I can feel them, I can everything. I can hear them, and it's like when I wake up from those dreams, I'll wake up with tears in my eyes, or I'll have goosebumps on me. Like, it's like they were there. It's just, and nobody else in my family has that. I don't get that.
Whenever you guys see these shadows, is there any strong emotions that are attached to that? So in other words, do you feel, and I don't mean just little, I mean, do you feel like an overwhelming sense of fear or anger or rage or love or anything like that? Or is it just kind of like, if I walk by and you saw my shadow, you're just like, shadow. You know, is it like no big deal that, I mean, it's a big deal that you see him, obviously, but is there nothing attached to that emotionally? Do you feel anything when you see him, or is it just, you just see him?
Sometimes I feel fear. Sometimes.
Okay.
I don't really feel anything because I've dealt with it for such a long time. Rudy. I've dealt with it for such a long time here that I guess I'm used to it.
No, you're good, man. That's
But I have personally felt more anger, more annoyance, more irritability over the last, 6 months?
Yeah, ish.
Yeah, like, I don't know, I've had some pretty horrible thoughts that I don't really want to say around my daughter, but I've had them and I can't explain why over the last couple months.
Let me take a.
What are, I don't want to get the exact thoughts because you say you don't want to say anything about your daughter, but what is the nature of those thoughts? Are they like thoughts of hurting somebody? Are they sexual thoughts? Are they thoughts of just pessimism and like no hope, or?
I've had thoughts of wanting to hurt him. I've had thoughts of wanting to hurt myself.
Yeah, the thoughts of hurting yourself or hurting him, are those based on something? In other words, like, do you want to hurt him because the son of a bitch let the towels out again and you told him not to leave them damn towels on the floor? Something like that, where he's done something he's not supposed to do, and that's why you're angry? Or just out of the blue, you just look over and you're like, I'd like to punch that mother in the face.
Pretty much. That.
Wow.
Like, I get...
I didn't say that.
it's like sleeping one eye open now.
I don't want you to think that I'm crazy, but literally I've had thoughts where I thought to myself, I wonder what would happen if I spiked his food with something and made him sick. I wonder what would happen if I just reached over and choked him.
Crazy's face.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to express those things and not scare the living piss out of you.
I hope you don't do it.
No, I'm better than that, but
Better. Are you better?
So those thoughts, have they been going on prior to the renovation work starting, or is that something that's happened since you guys started renovating?
since we started renovating.
So do you know any history of the house before you guys had this?
Mm-mm.
I can't find anything either. It doesn't really say a whole lot, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I have come across, what he sent me, went deeper into that. So both Native American and, so you had, I guess, Shawnee land to roughly probably, I want to say, Green Springs, probably something like that. They had occupant, Native American, and
I used to live in Shawnee Land.
Right.
All my childhood I lived there. We moved here from Shawnee Land.
gotcha. And yeah, so a lot of that up there was Indian, Indian American War happened. Shawnee Land was a big part of it. But Star Fort's almost practically in the backyard here.
Mm-hmm.
So you had everything from, I mean, there's some, I was looking up some stuff, man. That's something I'll show you. Walton was the commander. I didn't know that. You're related, you know what I'm saying? I thought that was kind of cool.
So did you see any of these shadows when you lived in Shawnee Land? Or is that something new to hear?
That's new to hear. Like, I never saw anything like that until we moved into this
What
house.
about you?
And if I can say something, I never even believed in anything like this until I moved here. I never seen or felt or anything until I came here, and then I started believing. You know, just some of the stuff I've seen here.
Mom, did you tell him that this house and like the whole neighborhood was built on a battlefield?
This whole area, all of Winchester is like that.
Oh, Winchester.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's 3 battles, major battles fought right in Winchester. More.
Probably
At least
more.
3.
Yeah.
You can even say the same thing about just 81 in general. You go up and down. It's
Mm-hmm.
So,
a long way.
Well, and another weird thing.
so right here,
Andy, I'm sorry.
what's that?
She's just making herself.
I said Walton, I meant Wharton.
Yeah, Wharton.
So you're looking at, Fort Collier. So right here, I mean, you might as well say, we're right in this area. That's where we're at. See, Wharton was there. You got Fort Collier was there. So, I mean, we're in that area right there. Like literally, let's see if I can get it. Y'all had Lee right in here too, Mumford. Let's see, it's the Valley Pike, Route 11. So this is what, 81 right here, right?
37.
Oh, it's 37, yeah. Yeah, but I pulled it up like you said on Google Maps
And
last
look at
night
that
when I
one.
was looking, man, it's, I mean, almost right on top. I mean, do they have there's no remnants of the fort left or anything, is there?
I don't think so. No.
I've never heard. I know Fort Collier there is.
Yeah, I mean, I drive through there every day. I go to work because I have to pick up people
Right,
from the jail.
but I've never
Yeah.
heard of it either, you know.
There's a sign or something down there for Star. That says Star.
Yeah, I saw something the other day.
It says 3rd Battle of Winchester down there.
I've seen something that says Star Fort Historical Site or something.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
But I mean, these last names, it's crazy to see these last names and people now that are in the area,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that
You know, my family's been here since before the Revolutionary War.
Shoemaker.
They fought on both sides. They came over, one side of the family came over as Hessian mercenaries to fight against the Americans for the British. And they had a contract of fighting for so long. And then once their contract was up, they switched sides and fought for the Revolution against the British. And the other side of my family is Cherokee and Blackfoot that were in the area long before.
It's kind of crazy to think about
Blackfoot, I
Ricketts.
thought was a Western tribe.
Yeah, from out that, I'm saying that other side of my family's got Cherokee and Blackfoot both.
You got Ricketts.
From this area, it's the Cherokee.
Big name.
The Whartons are
Yeah, so-
part Cherokee. Because the way the family history goes back, that one of my ancestors
Right here.
before the Revolution, back in the
That's what I'm
colonial
saying. It's
times,
just kind of weird 'cause there's
married
37, you know what
the
I'm saying?
daughter of the chief of the tribe, and then that's how we got the Cherokee mixed in with it.
I was talking to her about this, or was it you or your mom? Did you ever hear about that massacre in Thomasboro?
Yeah, well, 37 is right
Down by
now.
you know where Jake Rhodes is?
Right
Right down by there. It was back in the 1700s. It was
So,
Indians raided
There's 11.
a home, killed the
Fort
whole
Collier,
family.
so
Except
you'd be going
2 of them. One of them
this way,
escaped through the
So,
hemp field, and the other one they took it
wherever
to
it
Ohio
was
and raised it
at.
with their tribe.
You know what I'm saying?
You never heard of that?
So
That might be the one Andy was telling me about, something like that. That we got some photographs of like full body apparitions down there in Tom Brook in his barn. I mean, it was spectacular. I mean, it looked like a person just standing there, but it was translucent. It was amazing. But as far as shadow people go, there's many different kinds. Okay, ranging all the way from a normal ghost can appear as a shadow if it wants to, and then with shadow people you have all the way from
I will.
like the transient shadow people that are just pass through, and they don't bother you, you don't bother them, they can't hear you, you can't hear, you know what I mean, they just go through. Then you have kind that kind of just hang out in spots where there's been tragedies. They love horrible things. So a lot of times you'll find them at battlefield sites and sites where murders have occurred, really bad things, and they feed off that negativity, that negative energy. Okay, then you have the demonic shadow people. Now the demonic shadow people are the ones that are going to follow your family around. They're going to camp in your house, and they're going to attack you a lot. You're going to be getting scratched, hair pulled, attacked. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night with them on your chest, sucking your breath out of your lungs. You're not even able to breathe. It's horrifyingly frightening. They are extremely dangerous. Those are the kind. There's been people that they've literally caused them to walk out into the river and drown themselves.
Winchester.
When you're talking that kind of shadow person, I don't think that's what we're dealing with here, because you've only had the one hair pull, and that's something that a normal spirit can do to get your attention, especially during a renovation. You're going to have a lot of amped up activity happening during a renovation. Usually what happens is 6 months after, it all settles back down. The fact of tearing up the house and changing the house around stirs up a lot of activity.
It's just so weird. We've done a lot of things to this house over the years, and nothing to this extreme has happened before. What can we?
What I was gonna say is I have woken up in the middle of the night and like I was out of breath a lot. I have woken up in the middle of the night from like feeling that like something's around, since I'm like so sensitive. You know how I am.
I wonder if she doesn't have some kind of sensitivity, because since my grandmother passed away, she has told me that she has heard her, she has seen her, not just here at my actual grandmother's house. She even said that she saw her father's mother, and her father's mother passed when he was like 13 or 14, and she used her real legal name. No one called her that. I don't know.
You talked about cabinet doors. You talked about the doors being jiggled on the room and the closets, and the dishwasher being left open. Have you ever seen them open and close, or is it just they're open when you walk in a room, or have you ever seen them actually moving around?
I watched the cabinet door open and close in front of me.
So it opened and then it closed back.
Yes, I watched it.
Have you ever had like chairs moving across the room or anything like that?
I feel like I've had things move when I know that I put them somewhere, and then they're in a totally different spot of the house. I'm just like, why did this get moved? Like literally, I walk out the room, come back, and it's been moved.
One time I had like a piece of jewelry all the way up on my shelf in my room, and I was looking around for it. It ended up on there, and it wasn't different rings, because I only had one ring at a time. So I don't know like how that happened, because I didn't touch it the whole day.
So if you bring that out.
I have been back in my bedroom, and I have seen like orbs through the house. I've seen weird colored lights. I've even seen them in here, like just zoom through the room.
We caught something on film one time, remember? Or you recorded.
Yeah.
Sitting here, and we had this motorized cat toy. And the cats were chasing this thing around. And she filmed it, and you could see the little orbs flying around.
I've seen orbs like in the living room when I was sitting here one time, or like in my room, my old bedroom, kitchen. I've seen them too, like really high up though. And then one time I saw them like in like the middle of the room,
Literally, like maybe right
just
there.
sitting, like someone was standing there, but there's not a person. It's like just two little orbs, just.
You said that you think she might be sensitive in some way. I mean, does that go beyond just seeing and hearing spiritual activity stuff? Does she know things she's not supposed to know, or does she have any kind of psychic abilities that she can tell you something's going to happen before it happens, or anything like that?
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily that she can sense that something's going to happen, but she I've noticed that she will use words and say things that are so wiser beyond her years. I will literally go, where did you hear that? How did you know about that?
So I have a question for you. So if you meet a new person, can you usually tell what they're all about pretty quick?
When I meet them, I can tell a lot about their personality just from like what they're wearing or how they act or what they say. I can tell a good
How about a feeling? Do you get a feeling about them with none of that?
I know one time when I was in 2nd grade, we had A and B classes, and I was in the A, and my friend Allison was in B, but we weren't friends at that time. We didn't know each other. And the first time I saw her, I just knew, like, I had like the gut feeling that we were going to be best friends, and to this day we are best friends.
Definitely energy. Because me, I'm what they consider clairvoyant and empathetic.
She's very...
And that's why I'm asking her these questions, because like I can walk into a room and be around somebody and I'm still learning, you know. And easiest way to explain it is I can say, yeah, I know I don't need to talk to that person because they're going to end up screwing me over at some point. Stuff like that. As in places, if it's heavy, then yeah, I can feel it. But like, we feel things like when somebody's sad or something, I feel it a lot more than the normal person.
She does.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. She's, you know, probably more empathetic than most, if that makes sense.
She's always had this quality of like wanting to be the mother, the nurturer.
That makes sense.
Of all of her friends. Like, she gets along better with people younger than her and much older than her. People her age group.
You don't feel uncomfortable at all with people that are older than you? I'm saying the ones you know.
The ones you know, like your grandparents and Susan and people like that. Adults.
You kind of catch on to what they're about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's empathetic. I mean, it's just some are just more amplified than others. That's why, you know, and always listen to yourself. You understand what I'm saying too, don't you? Yeah, always listen to your gut feeling. Yeah, because it's, you know, a little bit more of a gift than some people have. And there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make you, I mean, it makes you different, but in a good way. Yeah. And usually kids that are, you know, ADHD and, you know, on the spectrum or something like that, the veil's a lot thinner. No, they haven't really come up with why, but, you know, kids that have, you know, just, that are different, but not, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, you know, they usually are the ones that, you know, you got to pay attention to because they're going through stuff that nobody understands.
Yeah.
And I went through that.
She's got very big feelings. It's not
it's
just,
empathy.
you know,
Empath.
she could, you know, have a bad day at school and it's like the end of the world.
10
And
times
she comes
worse on
home
her.
and it's just like she explodes and it's hard to bring her back down sometimes. Whereas I have a bad day at school and I'm like, fuck them. And I come home and I do my thing.
Yeah.
She's not like that. He could say something
She
or
carries
look
it with her.
the wrong
Yep.
way and she's...
It's hard to get rid of it, isn't it? Yeah,
It's
see, I'm
almost
learning
like
it.
there's two types of brains. You have a brain where the switch is on, where you have psychic abilities, you have those kind of abilities, right? And there's a whole range of them, all the way from just being an empath to flat out being able to predict the future and all kinds of stuff, right? But the switch is on. And then you have brains like my brain where the switch is off. where I don't have any kind of psychic abilities at all that I know of, right?
I know we're psychic.
But
I don't think.
with my brain, I don't pick up on any of that stuff. So when I go into a case, it's logic, it's reason, it's approaching almost like a detective, where I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. But I don't have any kind of otherworldly
Yeah.
senses about it. But when that switch is on, those abilities will develop over time and grow, and different abilities can become present later on in life as well. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to and make sure that you're very understanding about. Also, I'm sure you guys have heard of poltergeist.
Yeah.
Okay, what not a lot of people understand about poltergeist. A lot of people attribute poltergeist activity to a spirit, but a lot of times what poltergeist activity actually is a prepubescent girl in the home that has psychic abilities that is causing the poltergeist activity unconsciously. She doesn't realize she's doing it, but that could be why cabinet doors are opening, things are moving around the house. A lot of times when you have that poltergeist activity, you also have a young girl in the home that has psychic abilities. And she doesn't know she's doing it. She's not consciously moving stuff with her mind,
Yeah.
but just that is causing it for some reason. We don't understand why that happens, and that's only a theory. It's not
Yeah.
proven.
And that's why I was asking you about your parents, because a lot of times you build your own paranormal, like
Yeah.
literally you can create. And a lot of people, that's the sad thing, is people are watching this crap on TV,
Yeah.
and some of it, Nick Groff's a really good one to watch, his new stuff, because he's getting more into like quantum physics, which is a little hard to understand for
Yeah.
some.
That's my
That
fear.
one, but he also gets into, it's all about energy. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about. We can't, I had a guy one time I went to, they have Paracons, which are like Comic Cons, and they had a speaker, and it was the easiest way to explain it is we all learned in first, second grade that energy never dissipates, it just changes form and moves.
No, it does
somewhere else.
dissipate. Energy never dies.
It never dies.
It will dissipate out into the universe, but it never does.
Yes, it'll dissipate from here, but it's just like, with electricity, you're talking about how I don't know how many times have you unplugged something and the light stays on for 30 extra seconds before it goes out. It's kind of the same way, and that's what it is with energy in the house. We go over and flip that switch. It's just a gate that's stopping that energy at that point. It's not cutting it off and it's gone. And that's the way we are when, it's our time. Some people call it the soul, and that's what it is. I mean, there's no other way out of it. So some people tap into it, that energy a little stronger. And that's her and I both, And I think he does too. I mean, he's learning, I've had him in Moundsville, and they, the prison, they were just tearing him up in there in some spots. Like, I mean, he was feeling, tears, the whole 9 yards. And it's like, and then I say clairvoyant, but it's like, I don't know exactly, it's something clairvoyant, but I smell. Like, I'll get stuff coming to me, and smell stuff like that. Like, I was in Moundsville and I could smell somebody's baking cookies. Like, they had them right in my freaking face like that, and we're in the kitchen, and I'm thinking, now I'm just talking myself into this,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, and then I have a really good
Ain't
friend.
no better smell than that, though. I'll tell you what, baking cookies. Woo.
Whoever it was like, and,
What's crazy is I literally, this week, I haven't even put it up yet. It just went up to the service for the radio station to go around the world. Just this week, I did the show on this very topic. On EMF and elf radiation and psychics and all. I mean, literally everything we're talking about, I literally just did my show this week on, did a whole hour on it. That's going to be played on the radio
And there's nothing,
tomorrow night.
Also, don't, get scared.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not something to worry about. It's nothing, you'll just know, I can just say that it's probably, it's just different to deal with them. She's at work. Like you're saying, coming home from school and stuff, it's like,
Yeah.
And I want to reiterate it and make sure
understand
that I stress, just because she might have abilities and that could be a potential cause of some of the activity, does not mean that there is not activity happening.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not saying that you're not seeing what you're seeing or experiencing what you're experiencing. You absolutely are. It's just that could be, and it might not be the cause of it. It might be a completely different thing. There's still investigation that needs to be done, everything like that. But that is one potential that it could be. I'm not seeing yet anything that is a red flag for me that could be super, super dangerous here for you guys right now. You know what I mean? There is history of violence and drug use and stuff like that. That's concerning. You know, once we do the investigation, we'll be able to know a little bit better what we're dealing with. But as far as what you're experiencing, you've only had the one hair pull, and there hasn't been scratching, a little bit of shoving on you when you first moved in.
Yeah.
I see that also is a little bit of a concerning thing because it almost appears like whatever's here has taken ownership of the family. And when you're coming in as an outsider into the family, it's almost a protective thing. Like, hey, stay away from here.
Or it could,
You know?
it could be the house, the property, is something that you brought home from Goodwill, something like that.
But
And,
that happened in the beginning when you first came here, right? Has it been something that has continued, or has it stopped? Okay, that's a very, very good sign then.
Yeah.
I've had times where I don't feel like I'm alone when I'm here. Like, if he, like when he was working and she was with her dad and I was here by myself, I'm like, oh, I got the house to myself. I can breathe for a minute. I can take a shower and it feels like I can hear someone in the house.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's
that
like,
feeling. Yeah.
who the hell's here?
And that's being empathetic as well.
Yeah.
That's what that is. And like I said, we all have it. Just some is tuned up a little bit more. And it could be a good thing, you know, but then it stinks too. And she knows exactly what I'm talking about as I'm saying it,
I want to
because
go back to what you were talking about early on when y'all first got here, when you was talking about it being on the ceiling back in our bedroom. To me, when I see it, just imagine kind of like a curtain floating like this up above the, on the ceiling, like it was flaunting itself back and forth, just, waving like.
it's energy. Yeah.
And
that's
was
what
it
is.
was it like a mist, or was it like so it wasn't like a humanoid form or anything? It was just like a mist. Okay.
I've been laying in my bed one time and I felt like someone's, like, my hair is, like, sticking up in the back, or, like, someone's pulling my hair.
I have noticed with her a lot over the last year. She'll come to me and say, "Did you hear that? Or what was that? Or do you smell that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing going on." She picks up on it all the time. Before I met him, I was getting out of a relationship that was getting
he's been
to
with
be
me where I've said the same thing.
not very good.
So that's why.
There were maybe one or two times where I know I could have been laying in bed and I would wake up and it would feel like heaviness in the room, almost like whatever was up there was coming closer to me. Like I could almost see it getting closer and I could feel it.
I like that.
But then it's
Look
almost
what
like I told
That's
myself,
from
"You're
Jerusalem.
not there," and it
I
would go
see a
away.
REM pod.
Jerusalem.
That hasn't happened in a
I see a
while,
REM pod.
was
but I
waiting
have
for
had
it
that
to go.
happen.
So have any of you ever had, you know when you get in a fight,
Yeah.
you know that feeling right before you get in a fight, when nothing's happened yet, they haven't tried to attack you, they haven't run their mouth, but you know there's about to be a fight. That feeling in the air that something about to pop off.
I get that a lot.
You have that here in the house?
You watch a lot of shows, or
Yeah, I know what that is. REM pod.
you already know what it all is, don't you?
Yeah.
I can
When you
tell
pulled
when
that
you
out.
were looking.
Of your case, I knew
Do you
it
have
just by the shape.
do you have your holy water in here?
My what? Who what? My who what?
The water.
I don't. I used the last of it. And I gave the bottle to somebody to take with them because I felt they needed it.
With her, I've always, since that day when she told me that she could hear the man outside the house, she did tell me that she was hearing things again, but then she turned around and said, "No, I'm not hearing it anymore." So sometimes I wonder if she's being 100% honest with me about it.
I am. Like it's like a light switch. Like.
And this may
Like
be
you
something
said.
she grows out of too. At a younger age, they're all open way more than we are. Unfortunately, it's because we're told that, oh, you're just, there's nothing.
Well, when we first moved in here, when I got divorced, she had her own bedroom. She would not sleep in her bed. It took 2 years to get her in her own room. And she would not let me out of her sight. It's like, she was literally my shadow.
What not a lot of people realize too is that the majority of homes that are older homes have something in them.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that it's dangerous. That doesn't mean that it's going to hurt you. It also doesn't mean that you're even going to know that something's there. You know what I mean? But one thing I noticed in this conversation is you guys said that about a year ago they put fiber optic lines in. And it's been a recent thing that everything's ramped up. So the fiber optic lines being put in means that there's a lot more EMF being pumped into this area than there was before. That energy spirits can use to manifest.
Well,
Yeah, that's how they manifest. That's why they drain your batteries and everything. They need that energy in order to manifest visually and auditorily so that you can hear them.
That's
right?
why I knew when they come out
So-
with 5G that it was gonna be, we'd be getting more.
That's
stuff
literally
going
what I
on.
did a show on this week is 5G and its effect on the paranormal activity and why it's causing more and more stronger
Yeah.
paranormal activity than there was
Intensity.
before. Yeah, more intensity with it, where it is
We're
happening
thinning
more
the
often.
veil.
And,
We're
yeah.
thinning the veil out. Is what's
Yeah.
happening. I mean, it really is. We're pushing closer, and that's where quantum physics comes in, to where they're trying to figure out. You know, I follow a couple people, and sometimes it's like Chinese to me when they're talking and stuff. You know, but I do a lot of talking in paracons. I do, you know, and there's a guy that the last place I was just at, him and I were talking, and he did his whole thing on pretty much, you know, what you and I have been talking about if we can just catch that right frequency, that right vibration, which is all done with EMF and, you know, the whole 9 yards.
It's so funny you said vibration because I literally was, I'm not telling you to do it, I felt like my whole body was vibrating and shaking. Like I've felt that for the last maybe week and a half, just laying in bed and I feel like my whole body is just like
Mom,
vibrating for some reason.
yeah, Friday when I went to school yesterday, like I felt like it was in the morning, like it didn't happen at home. Right when I stepped into school, it wasn't really my classroom. I felt like my whole body was like vibrating, but like a lot. Like I'm shaking my leg. How you hate Braden does that? Like that. My whole body. Like that. And
She's been telling me for the last week and a half that she's like, there's ghosts in our school.
I guess I'll get a weapon if I need it.
like
I don't know where that came from, but
we talked about the ozone smell. Have you noticed any other smells that are out of the ordinary that shouldn't be here?
for months, I smelt a rotten putrid smell. I was the only one that smelt it.
What did it smell like?
Something rotten. It smelled like a dead rotten mouse.
So like
my
almost a sweet smell, like a sweet stink. So it wasn't like a rotten egg kind of smell.
No,
it
and
was,
I couldn't find the source of it. I searched the house up and down. I poured bleach down all the drains because I thought maybe it was methane or something backing up. Nothing. And then it just went away.
on my bus, I smelled like this
I
very,
think they had him
very rotten smell. And
pretty much
when you're on the bus
beat
with
up
stinky
before
rotten
he was
kids too.
brand
Probably
from.
a couple of them farted at lunch.
there was no one on the bus but me. I was going home.
so it was you that farted.
No, it wasn't.
Now we get to the bottom of it.
That's all we need to do. See ya.
Well, and he also kept telling me that he was smelling like what was it, soot?
Soot. It smells soot all the time.
Like an old wood stove, old chimney.
There's never been one in here. So I don't know why I'm smelling soot.
Have you ever
Smell it all over the house, but I don't smell it all the time.
smelled black powder?
That's what I was just thinking.
Something like that. Maybe cannon.
It smells like a campfire that's burned out.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
One of the two.
There's been times where I think it smells like a dead animal, in the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah.
And he doesn't smell it, but I'm like, there's something, like, there's gotta be like a dead mouse or something.
Yeah.
And then it goes away.
Trust this. Just let you know. It's like, it's looking like it's not gonna do it. It's been a while since I used it. Well, where I was going with that was the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he's smelling something like campfire or stuff like that, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's actually that'd be more residual, you know,
Yeah.
than it would be anything.
But it could also, if the shadows are the kind, if they're not just regular spirits, if they're shadow people that are the kind that feed off the negativity, then it could be that they were here during the Civil War time, the battle time, when all the death and destruction was taking place here. And you have a few that have kind of lingered. And that's kind of what you're catching, you're seeing every once in a while. And with them is carried that smell of that time and that era and the battlefield and the black powder of the rifles and the burnt out campfires. It could be that, and even the putrid smell of death, you know, because when a person dies and they start to decompose, and this is as quick as 12 hours after death, you get that sweet smell, right? It's gross, it stinks, but it's got a sweet smell to it as well. There's an after effect of sweetness that's layered on top of that smell, and that sounds a lot like what you're describing. The smell, you're smelling like a dead mouse or something that's dead in the house.
Has a unique smell to it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's nasty.
Yeah, I just went through that at my house and I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I mean, I went to every vent. I checked everything. I couldn't find the source.
Have you noticed during any of the activity or just in general, are there spots in the house that you get cold spots a lot, where it just feels a lot colder than the rest of the room?
You can see ghosts.
No, that just, I can put this camera in the dark and it lights up the room when I cut this on.
No, I know I go through spells where I'm like, it's freezing in here, and he's like, I'm hot, and then vice versa.
But there's never like a situation where you're right here and you're perfectly warm and wonderful, and then you go there and it's freezing.
Like you walk into a cold spot.
Yeah, where there's like a little area that's really, really cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened a few times.
Because it could be multiple. Also, to go back on, so the way I try to tell people the best way to really describe it, that if she is empathetic, which I'm going to be pretty safe saying, you know, she's a little stronger than most.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine being in like a foreign country. You're lost. They speak a different language. You're walking around, don't know how to get directions, don't know how to ask or nothing, and all of a sudden you walk past a crowd and you hear someone speaking English.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna go, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's the same way with psychics and empaths and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she knows I'm here.
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like a magnet that
Yeah,
attracts.
Like, it's just like a beacon for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just did a case in Harper's Ferry, and the guy has been, I mean, he was borderline probably one of the most craziest psychic abilities that I had been around in a long time, and had no idea, you know, and he's like telling me, you know, yeah, you know, they full-fledged conversation with me sometimes. He's like, I can tell what they're saying, but they're not verbally speaking, but they're giving him, he just has learned in his mind's eye or whatever it is the psychic has, that if they're saying, you know, like we would understand if I went, you know, even though I'm talking about a gun or something like that. And he understands what they're trying to tell him. And I was like, when do you get this? He's like, oh, a lot. You know, and the whole time I'm like, well, now, you know, graveyard almost in their backyard, you know, and people been killed right down the road from where he lived at. And I'm like, and we start looking into it. And that's what pretty much come down, you know, to me was that he was a beacon.
The way she described it to me when she finally felt comfortable enough to tell me that she was hearing things was that it's like she could hear them whispering in her ear, but she can't understand what they're saying, and it's like they show her
Very faint, yeah.
like
And
little
then they show
snaps of something, and she's trying to
like they're showing you picture cards, almost, yeah.
Like little scenes from a movie. You get a flash of a little.
Yeah. And now that you can understand that a person that's full psychic, that's kind of the way they get it.
It's gotta be overwhelming, I'm sure.
Well, they learn to turn it off, and
That's what, if she truly has that kind of like sensitivity, I just want her to be able to protect herself, because the very first time she told me someone was telling her something, they're telling her to hurt herself.
right. And you know not to listen to that crap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she when I asked her, why are you cutting up your clothes? This makes no sense. She said, I'm doing it so I don't do it to myself, because they want me to do it to me. So I'm doing it to my clothes so I don't hurt myself.
Good. But you do know that you have the authority over that stuff, so you can speak right out at it and say, hey, I don't get out of my bubble.
Like, I've tried that, just like doesn't go away.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, then, you know, I wouldn't say get too authoritative with it, but just put your foot down again. And then if you don't, then definitely tell Mom or Tony, and, you know, in that way. But you did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did the right thing. And they do. They pray, man. And it doesn't mean too many people want to label it the D word.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, if you're an asshole when you were living, you're most likely an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to be the same when you go.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody that didn't like a kid, you know, or they got kids got on nerves, like these old crotchety, you know, old people, you know, some of them just, I mean, it's the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
You know, so they might be, you know, just
Picking on
that
her.
energy.
Being a bully.
You know, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people get that mixed up with the D word,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And, I mean, but that's definitely, I mean, stuff that happens. Don't get me wrong on that. I mean, we deal with that more than, you know, but that's kind of what we do,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I mean,
But,
that's the main part of what we do is work demonic cases. But not every malevolent case is a demonic case.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just, I mean, there's people in this world that just like to watch it all burn.
Yeah.
You know, no better way to say it, they're just dicks.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like that when they're dead too.
Yeah.
And you're going to have evil people. You're going to have, there's a lot of different things that are evil and malevolent that aren't demonic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, demonic has certain characteristics that always take place in every case.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not seeing any of those characteristics here.
Yeah.
As far as a demonic case, there's none of the stuff that we've asked you, and I've asked you several things that would tell me if there's something, and I don't think, now that doesn't mean you don't have some sort of malevolent entity here that's just being a dick. You know what I mean? That's what we kind of got to figure out. So is there anything else that you guys want to tell us that we haven't gotten to yet? Anything that you think might be important?
I don't know if it's gonna be important, but like.
It's all important.
Well, I was taking a shower and it was like in the middle between hot and cold, and it went like almost all the way on hot, and my soap bar was like sitting on the edge.
Right.
And it was on like, there was a ledge to make it fall, but it wasn't on the ledge, it was on the other part in the bathroom. And it's like, it got pushed because it didn't go that way off the bath, it went into the bathtub. So.
And sometimes that's just something trying to say, hey, I'm here. I mean, I know that doesn't help out with the creep factor, but, you know, sometimes like people scratch, I'm a firm believer that all scratching is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I mean, I don't know what it's like to be on the other side. Mm-hmm. So if the only way that I can let you know that I'm here is scratch you, then that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, sometimes like, you know, pushing the soap is maybe one way to tell you, but cutting the hot water a little bit hotter, that's just somebody trying to be a butthead.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what that kind of comes back to be, you know. And that's when you can say, hey, you know, you wouldn't like it if I turned it on you, get out of my bubble, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, nothing wrong with all being authoritative, because, you know, if it's something that's trying to tell you that it's there, definitely if it thinks it's hurting you, it's not going to continue that, you know, I wouldn't think.
Apparently, remember, I don't know if we chalked it up to maybe medicine, but I've never had this reaction. What was it, a couple weeks ago? I got mad, told you to punch me in the face, and then I had no memory of doing it.
You ever have a loss of time or anything, like think, oh shit, man, I mean, no, think you've only been, like, can't account for time?
Like it's noon, and then you're sitting there, and then you look up, and it's 4. And you're like, what the hell?
Sometimes, yeah.
I chalk it off with age sometimes, for myself.
I like to tell myself that it's because I have a lot of stress on my plate, but I've also been a type of person that handles stress really well, and
I'm the same way.
I feel like everything is falling down around me half the time, and I told him I feel like I'm suffocating and I'm drowning half the time. I don't feel like me anymore, and I don't understand why this has changed for me. Like, even before you guys got here, I was sitting there and I was just like, I'm angry and I'm annoyed and I don't.
How did you feel about us coming here? Were you kind of...
I
know you didn't care, but I mean, were you like...
I'm glad, but I guess a part of me was like, didn't... I don't even know how to explain it.
And it could just be a negative energy that's caused by a ton of different things, you know what I'm saying? Which doesn't... A lot of times when we're dealing with really bad stuff, anything and everything will happen to us weeks. Sometimes we have stuff happening before we even know we got a case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something that's attacking us because it knows
That we're coming.
Yeah. And it knows that we got the authority to, you know, and you do too. I mean, don't ever think that you don't, because you do. And then sometimes we need help, you know, and that's where we come in, and then sometimes we need help, you know, and that's where we got, you know, we have a Mike Ross on our team who's, he's a sanctioned exorcist. I mean, that's what he is. And, you know, if we have to bring him in, then we'll bring him in, you know, and that's the way it is. And I mean, and you know, and if here we don't get what we feel comfortable with, he'll definitely come in and bless the house. I can bless the house.
Yeah, we both cast out demons, we bless homes, conspiracy, and all that stuff. But like Mike is for the major stuff. Yeah. If we get into something that's like Amityville horror style, that's just absolutely way more than we can handle. You know what I mean? And even when Mike comes in, he might have to come in multiple times and do multiple exorcisms, because you don't just get rid of a demon that easy. They don't like to go.
But I don't feel like
you know what I mean?
That's at all what's going on here.
Yeah. I think there might be, there's some negative energy. There might be something that is negative or malevolent here. Because there's been several red flags that have come up of, like, you thinking about poisoning Tony, wanting him to punch you in the face. You know, those kind of things are
I feel like
red
it's
flags.
picking on me because I feel like I'm getting to a point where I'm fragile, and it knows that, and it's just like, okay, let me turn the screws on you, bitch. Like, that's kind of how it feels.
Same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Innocence for that way. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And that's normal. I mean, it's not normal, but I'm saying that's not abnormal to hear that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that that you need to worry about anything, but the thing is, it's probably doing that because it can scare you a little easier maybe than Tony. You know, and that's what it might be trying to do, just to, you know, give you that. And it also knows, and I'm speaking out right now because, and if it is something here, it's definitely listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's games up, because obviously if it's messing with you, it upsets him because he loves you and doesn't want to see you go through anything. So that's how it gets at him, you know. and it's just a cycle, and that very well could just be somebody that was an ass and would do that when they were living. You know, it could have been somebody prior that lived here. You know, we don't know what energy happened here before, and that's what I'm saying is maybe there was some things that happened here that pretty much, you know, the vibration or the energy's still here. And it's ways of getting rid of that. And it's ways of showing, you know, whatever energy is here that, you know, hey, we're not gonna fall into whatever you had going on, you know. And then if it's Civil War related or all the mix of all of it, you know, they need to know that, you know, I mean, if anything else, we can do a ritual out back, you know, honor them, you know, something like that. I mean, I've told people to, you know, I've seen people that have taken and they'll get a Confederate flag, like even just a little one or something, you know, and they'll put a little rock garden and stick that in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? Something like that that's just showing that, hey, we know you're here, or we know, or, you know, we are showing that, you know, that we appreciate, or, you know, we're giving you honor is what it's coming down to, respect. Because who knows, man, they could have built these houses right on top of graves that weren't marked, you know, anything like that. I mean, you don't know, especially in this area, but.
I think that's pretty much the end of the interview as far as what we need to know.